In 2016, when Google's AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, many people began to worry about whether computers could do everything better than humans. Today, when ChatGPT detonated the artificial intelligence bomb again, many people panicked even more. In my opinion, this worry is more or less unfounded, because no matter what kind of computer, it can only solve a small part of the world's problems. Facts have also proved that from 2016 to now, basically everyone is still doing what they should do. Just the way they do things has changed. More ironically, the smart revolution was supposed to create more IT-related jobs and eliminate a lot of so-called low-end labor. But the reality is that since 2022, the world's most famous IT companies have been laying off workers, and they have cut more than one round. On the contrary, in the US, those so-called low-end jobs are seriously short of people. In the case of massive layoffs in US IT companies, the unemployment rate and employment rate have reached record levels, and many industries even have two jobs for one employee. In China, at least IT companies are not doing any better than the US. The reason for this result is that in the past few years, the world has been hyping artificial intelligence, thinking that it is omnipotent, but artificial intelligence also has boundaries. The boundary of ChatGPT is the boundary of artificial intelligence. And the boundary of artificial intelligence is the boundary of mathematics, and mathematics has a boundary. In history, 3 people have theoretically drawn the boundary between mathematics and computers. At this point, let's talk about the boundary problem, see where ChatGPT, and even the boundary of artificial intelligence is. In other words, what problems can be solved and what problems cannot be solved. Sedol. The first person to point out the boundaries of mathematics was Sedol. At the end of the 19th century, due to the rapid progress of science and technology, people generally felt optimistic about the ability of technology and felt that it was omnipotent. In mathematics, it is generally felt that mathematics can be a rigorous and complete knowledge system, and even that all problems can be solved by mathematical methods. At that time, Hilbert, a great mathematician, was committed to building a mathematical system that was both complete and consistent. Generally speaking, the so-called complete means that the axioms of mathematics can derive all reasonable conclusions. The so-called consistent means that the derived conclusions are not contradictory. Of course, in mathematics, completeness and consistency have strict definitions, so we won't go into them. But in 1931, at the age of 25, Sedol proved that a mathematical system cannot be both complete and consistent. That is to say, if completeness is guaranteed, the conclusions will be contradictory. If consistency is guaranteed, there will be many conclusions that cannot be proved by logical reasoning. This was a huge blow to the mathematics community at the time, especially the elderly Hilbert himself. However, it also awakened people and let people know that mathematics is not omnipotent. And many problems in the world are not mathematical problems. This understanding is very important. Let human beings take a lot less detours. Matiasevich. The second person to further limit the boundaries of mathematics or algorithms is Russia's mathematical genius Matiasevich. As early as 1900, Hilbert put forward a question, that is, the famous Hilbert 10th problem, which is simply, for a certain type of mathematical problem, the problem of integer solutions to indefinite equations, is there a method that can determine whether it has a solution by finite steps? Note that Hilbert is only concerned with judging whether it has a solution, and has not yet considered how to solve it. Of course, if it is not clear whether there is a solution, it is impossible to solve it. This question has plagued many mathematicians for a lifetime. Finally, in the late 1960s, Matiasevich, who was doing his college thesis, solved it and gave a negative answer. That is, even for some seemingly simple mathematical problem, we may not only not know how to solve it, but also cannot determine whether it has an answer. At the time, Matiasevich was only 22 years old. Matisiewicz's conclusion is both bad and good news for computer people. The bad news is that many problems can be solved without thinking about how to program them. Because just now, we can't tell whether it has an answer at all, let alone solve it. In other words, many math problems can't be solved step by computer at all. The good news is that many people are saved from wasting time here. However, not all technologists know where the boundaries of mathematics lie, and there are still countless people who make mistakes and try to solve problems that shouldn't be solved by computers. Turing. The third is the person who gave the boundaries of computer power. Turing. Turing knew Hilbert's 10th question at the time, and he thought the answer was negative, but he couldn't prove it. At the time, Turing was also inspired by von Neumann. After reading von Neumann's book The Mathematical Principles of Quantum Mechanics, he believed that human consciousness comes from the uncertainty principle, but calculation comes from the movement of machinery. This, Turing believed, determines what can and cannot be calculated. Later, Turing invented a device called a Turing machine, which could determine, in a limited time, what kind of problem could be calculated in a limited number of steps. To put it simply, Turing not only gave the computable problem, that is, the boundary of the problem with an answer, but also told people the method to achieve the calculation. This method is the Turing machine, which can determine which type of problem can be calculated in limited steps in limited time. The boundaries of artificial intelligence. Well, after talking about the boundaries of mathematics and computers, let's look at the boundaries of artificial intelligence. First of all, many problems in the world are not mathematical problems. For example, if you encounter a driverless car on a one-way street today, and you deliberately block the road to prevent it from passing, at this point, it has no way. It makes all algorithms unable to drive you away. Of course, if you are driving in this situation, you can either get out of the car and tow the person in front of you away. Of course, this is not appropriate. Or you can call the police and ask them to ask him to go away. But neither approach is a mathematical solution. Secondly, according to the conclusions given by Hilbert and Matyasevich, it is not known whether many mathematical problems have solutions or not. In computing and mathematics, knowing whether a problem has a solution is called decidable, and such problems are called decidable problems. Again, many decidable questions are unsolvable, and only a few have answers. I have attached a diagram to the manuscript that shows the nested relationships between all problems. Math problems, decidable problems, and problems with answers. You can click on the manuscript to see. Then, among the problems that have answers, there are some that can be solved by Turing machines, which are called computable problems. Of course, a Turing machine is an ideal computer, and its so-called finite time can be a very long time, such as 1 trillion years, beyond the age of the universe. Furthermore, the problems that computers can solve in real life are a smaller subset of computable problems, which we call engineering computable problems. For example, as we said earlier, if the time to train a model is 20 years, we basically consider it to be uncomputable today, at least in engineering. Finally, not all engineering computable problems belong to the category of artificial intelligence research. And the problems that artificial intelligence can solve are only a smaller subset of engineering computable problems. There is also a picture in the text area, which illustrates the nested relationship between the various sets of questions within the answered question. It can be seen that the problems that artificial intelligence can solve are only a tiny fraction of all the problems in the world. Moreover, even if there are very few problems that artificial intelligence can solve, algorithms must be found to calculate them. Today, artificial intelligence is developing faster and solving many problems. Just because the algorithm was not found in the past, and today the algorithm has been found. However, this does not mean that the existing algorithms have solved all the problems of artificial intelligence, let alone solve all the problems in the world. When it comes to the boundaries of computer power, some people will have a question, that is, after quantum computing comes out, whether the original computer cannot solve the problem, can be solved today? This is actually confusing. Computing power and computability. With the increase of computing power, problems that can be calculated will be calculated faster and solved in an instant. But those that cannot be calculated will still not be calculated. If you have a compression refrigerator, for example, you can lower the temperature. If you have a super powerful refrigerator, the temperature will drop much faster. But no matter how big a refrigerator is, it's impossible to get the temperature below absolute zero, because that's a boundary of physics. Thinking within the boundaries of artificial intelligence. So why do so many people today think outside the boundaries of artificial intelligence? People with this idea can be divided into two categories: Onius true ignorance. There is a strange phenomenon today, that is, people who have never done any research on artificial intelligence, or even know what artificial intelligence is, dare to claim to be experts and express various views on artificial intelligence. These people are like the indigenous Jamaicans who witnessed Columbus make the moon disappear and make the moon appear. And they will advertise to others that there is a god called Columbus. The other category is practitioners in the field of artificial intelligence, who inadvertently exaggerate their contributions. You can imagine in your mind two circles nested in each other. The big circle is the problem that can be solved by computers today, and the small circle is the problem that artificial intelligence has solved. We can imagine that after a period of time, the problems that artificial intelligence can solve become more and more. That is, the small circle becomes larger. But many practitioners, especially those who have made concrete contributions, magnify their achievements from their own perspective. These people only see part of the problem. In fact, the problems they see that can be solved in engineering and the problems that can be solved by artificial intelligence are fundamentally different from those in reality, and even the size and shape have changed. When artificial intelligence develops a little and the small circle becomes larger, they feel that artificial intelligence seems to have solved most of the solvable problems, so they are either excited or flustered. To put it bluntly, many people who study specific problems today do not look up at the road, but only see a little bit of research field in front of them, and regard a little progress as a great progress. This view is not much different from the frog at the bottom of the well described by Zhuangzi. Next section preview. If we live in an age that has nothing to do with artificial intelligence, maybe we don't need to care about the boundaries of artificial intelligence, because it has nothing to do with us, whether it develops well or badly. But today, the situation is different, because we feel that it is closely related to me, and our decisions may be affected by its development. Therefore, it is necessary for us to really understand the details of artificial intelligence.